Leo, first of all, thank you so much for talking with us after your wonderful climb. I guess let's start at the beginning. What about preparation? How important is preparation for something like this undertaking? And what did you do to prepare for it with your mum and dad?
Well, I think with anything that comes with mountaineering and such a kind of grandiose expedition, such as Kilimanjaro, you are on the mountain for 6, 7, 8+ days. So you kind of need to do, yeah, a lot of physical training and also the mental training that comes with that aspect as well. Even before arriving in Tanzania, well, my parents were in Hokkaido and I was in Switzerland at the time. So we weren't able to train together per se, but I was going on lots of runs. I was hiking in the Swiss Alps as well as much as I could. And it's just about, I think, getting the reps in. So even if you have like a 9 to 5 job and you're busy in the weekday, if you can just go for a short hike somewhere on the weekends, consistency and being able to find time out of your busy schedule or day or week just to squeeze in a small form of exercise, and that just is going to be, yeah, it's going to be compounding onto each other where you're going to get slowly more fit and mentally fit as well. Depending on the route and course you take, it's going to be different in terms of the load on the person, but it's something that definitely you need to be prepared for in terms of the fitness, but also the equipment as well. So luckily with Epic, they provided a bunch of different lists and kind of links into what kind of equipment you needed for the actual hike. So we made sure to buy the proper boots and the proper jackets and gear and whatnot. But it made the whole process quite easy that we were provided with all the material for sure.
Was there an adjustment for you to the altitude? And I know that they take this very seriously on Kili.
To be honest, when I was hiking in Switzerland, I didn't get to train much at altitude. I think the max I was going was like 2,500 or 3,000 meters over sea level, which is still relatively high, but not enough to the extent that you need to be taking like Diamox and stopping often and going at a slow pace. The whole altitude thing it's also preparation and how you approach the mountain. In terms of our expedition, we were able to have so much time between ascents.
So, what are the Swahili words that you remember the most from your guides and porters?
I think the number one is pole pole, which is, yeah, to go slowly. It's a word that's used on the mountain, but also like a metaphor for life, right? You don't necessarily need to go through things at 100 miles an hour, and you can take things slowly but enjoy the process. You have so much time to kind of talk with the porters and the guides and whatnot, and the name of the game is to go slowly. And the team really kind of forces you out of a place of love to do the mountain as slowly as possible out of your best interest to get to the top. So yeah, it forces you to kind of, you don't have any Wi-Fi, you don't have connection to do anything with the outside world, so it forces you to have a more slower approach to life, which I think is missing in this day and age.
That is such a great point you make, because when you leave Africa, and I haven't climbed Kili yet, hopefully one day, but that is the sort of mantra, isn't it? It's not just this physical thing that you kind of tick off on a bucket list, but there's something deeper about that, isn't there? That message.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like as beautiful as the entire hike was, and the journey up the mountain, the thing that stuck with us most was the cultural aspect of the climb. Being able to talk to the locals, right, and hearing their stories and how did they grow up, what kind of education they received, how did they become porters, how did they become chefs and cooks on the mountain, and learning about their stories and hearing the struggles they go through on a day-to-day basis and why they enjoy going on the mountain or why they don't enjoy going on the mountain was the more eye-opening part of the experience. I mean, obviously you can see like beautiful images of Kili and whatnot, but climbing it is a different thing because you're there in the flesh to experience the wilderness and the mountains and the views and everything. But the biggest part was definitely the people, because you're with the same group of people for 6+ days, right? And you get really close. And I think the biggest thing I'd say for people wanting to climb is don't be afraid to talk to the people as well. Yeah, they'll definitely reciprocate that effort of wanting to learn about you, and you feel so much gratitude to get to know these people as well. So long story short, I graduated around a week before we actually flew to Tanzania. So it was kind of like
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was like a graduation trip for me, kind of thing. Something that I've been wanting to do for 4 years, and I've told my dad about it from quite a long time ago. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page of, okay, let's have a good time. Let's climb this mountain together. You're enclosed in the same space, like in a tent for a long period of time, and also you're walking and you're spending every waking hour with the same people. And I think inevitably that brings you closer as a family or a group of friends because you're sharing this experience together in such a raw format where all these luxuries we have in life now, like a nice house and a bed and everything, and you're stripping it down to the roots of, okay, now we're wearing the same clothes for 7 days in a row. We're sleeping in tents and sleeping bags and whatnot. And that's kind of raw experience that you get from climbing Kili is what makes the connections you have on the mountain much more special and meaningful, I would say. Even before we started the climb, my mom was saying that she wouldn't summit and she just stayed at the base camp while we summited over the night. But then after a while with our guide Ola and the team, I think all of us kind of encouraged my mom and told her that, yeah, you can actually do this. And this is an incredible opportunity that we might not ever have again in life. So might as well give it a shot, right? The summit day is definitely mentally exhausting because you're up at 10:30 p.m. and you start climbing and you reach there at 7 and you come down. I was trying to enjoy it as much as I could, so oftentimes I would just stop and look behind me at the sunrise or look at my parents with admiration. Yeah, and I think it's really important to kind of enjoy the moment and breathe because you're only there for 10, 15 minutes because you have to come down based on your group.
Is it emotional when you reach the summit, and what
Yeah.
was that experience like? The whole idea of having achieved what you set out to do.
No, it's super emotional. I remember crying when I was on the mountain because you're seeing the sunrise over Africa essentially, and you're at the tallest mountain in Africa as well, and it's it's a memorable experience because you spent the past 6 days going through all the ups and downs, like figuratively and physically as well. And there's a sense of accomplishment you have not only for yourself but for the team as well and for each other. It makes it that much more special when you do it with the people you love, I feel.
The guides are always watching you, intensely, aren't they, for those signs of altitude sickness, and there are varying degrees of it, and most people who do the climb are going to experience some of those symptoms. But in the case of your mum and dad, they were never severe enough for them to have to head back down the mountain.
The whole team is extremely well equipped in terms of dealing with the altitude sickness and identifying certain behavior patterns that they know are potential symptoms that, okay, this person is experiencing something. Although you do need to be pushed to climb to the top, it's not being pushed in a very irrational way. Like you shouldn't be pushed when you're feeling really bad, but they're good enough and know to understand that, okay, this person is experiencing mild altitude sickness and they can keep going, versus, okay, this person actually needs to come down the mountain. So they're really well equipped.
When you were flying back home after this experience, were there any feelings as you processed what you'd done that you hadn't expected? You find out something about yourself. That's probably the best way of asking the question.
I was writing, kind of journaling my entire experience throughout the climb. So every day before dinner, I'd be sitting outside and I'd write down like what I did on like day 6 and day 7 of the climb.
Just so I beautiful handwriting as well, by the way.
Thank you. Just so I could remember what I was experiencing, so I could reflect on it, as you said, on the plane and whatnot. And then when we finished the hike and we got back to the hotel and we're preparing to go on our flight home, I kind of wrote like the 10 lessons. If you want me to share those, or just the key ones?
Oh yeah, look, what are the top 3? What are the top 3 takeaways?
Even if you're not into things like meditation or mindfulness or whatnot, you're kind of forced to do that when you're on the mountain because you don't have anything else to do. So even when you're walking for 7+ hours, at some point that becomes a spiritual experience because you're experiencing what the mountain has to offer from a view standpoint, but also from the heart and soul of the mountain. And that also transcends towards the people working on the mountain as well. Like this mountain has been able to give work and life to these people. Yeah, it translates towards your experience of the mountain and makes it that much more of a spiritual experience because, yeah, you're experiencing the mix of the nature, the people, and the physical journey. And that kind of is an incredible thing. Okay, big one was we got to actually go inside the cooking tent and cook with the chef and experience what it's like to be cooking on the mountain. And I was, yeah, kind of flabbergasted by the fact that with one pot and one pan, they could create such incredible meals. And the takeaway from that was you don't need the latest equipment to make something incredible. I think oftentimes people, especially my age, think that, oh, you need, if you want to create videos, you need the latest camera and the latest lens and everything to make something incredible. And, oh, if you want to get into, I don't know, some other form of art, or if you want to get into some form of sport like cycling, you need the latest bike, you need the coolest helmet on all these shoes and gear. But you don't need all these latest things. You just need what you have, and you can do something great with that. I talked about the experience talking with the locals and the porters and whatnot, and just realizing how much difficulties they go through, right? With difficulties growing up, not having much access to food, water, shelter, and whatnot, just basic needs that I take for granted. And I think it's, yeah, the biggest lesson was just being grateful for what I have. And so having conversations with them really brought to light of, wow, like, despite, this is the third lesson that I'll touch upon is, yes, these people don't have much, but then they still seem to be like the happiest people in the world, right? Every time we came back to camp, you have all the porters like singing and dancing and welcoming us back with these big smiles. And yeah, it kind of comes to show then it's like a cliche thing, but it's true. I think oftentimes the people that have the least are the ones that give the most. Make sure you do a lot of research to see how the porters and the team is treated on the mountain. Something that I brought up early on in the whole process of climbing the mountain was, I asked, I think, Brad, like, what is the treatment of the porters and the people climbing? Mainly because it's important for me to know that they're taken care of in terms of their food, the tent is well equipped, and that they're treated as humans as we are. So I think the biggest thing is to make sure that the company that you choose really takes care of their porters and ask them for facts and statements, because I remember that Epic provided us with certificates stating that their porters were following these different guidelines and these different procedures to make sure that they're treated well, which was good for me because that was my only kind of requirement. Because yeah, I think if you're visiting someone's home, you should be taking care of the people. Make sure that you choose a good tour company like Epic. Not many people get to go to Tanzania, and if you do, I think it's definitely one of the most incredible things you will do in your life.
The great thing about photography, I think, that in one shot you can wrap up this experience and the grandeur of Kilimanjaro as well.
I actually didn't bring a camera for the trip. These are all photos from my phone. I didn't want to carry another weight to obstruct me from completing the journey, so all the photos and videos that I took were from my phone. I didn't want to use my phone as often as possible, mainly to soak up the experience and enjoy what it is. The only time I actually took my phone out to take pictures was when I thought, oh, this is a special moment, such as that photo of the porter carrying his weights and the clouds in the distance. Because I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that's a really cool photo. I should take a photo.
What is it about travel for you that is so very special?
To me, travel is the best form of education. I don't think anything compares to it in terms of the things you can learn from even simple things like the food or how they live their life. And I think the main reason that I travel now is I want to go somewhere, learn about how the locals live their life, and then hopefully take something back and change my life back home. You can travel in your neighborhood, right? I think more often than not, people don't even explore what occurs in their backyard. I think it's important for everyone in the world to kind of be exposed to different ways of thinking and ways of life, because that's kind of what's going to bring people together, hopefully bringing the world together and making it a better place.
I think the future of the world is in great hands with young people like you. I've loved hearing your reflections on this very special experience with your mum and dad in climbing Kilimanjaro. Thanks, mate.
No, happy to share, no worries.